hate, love CrossFit, it doesn't really matter. Just don't give it so much credit to where you think that a workout with front squats and kettlebell swings is inherently CrossFit. It's not. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the biggest swear word in the fitness industry, CrossFit. Now, look, I know a lot of you guys have your minds made up on CrossFit, and it could be that it's great. It could be that you hate it. But this finding is actually really interesting to me, whether or not you want to do CrossFit in the future. I think there are things in this finding, in this little science experiment here around the CrossFit methodology that are pretty important and eye-opening to myself. I'd grown up my whole life doing, various sorts of weight training for sports. And when I graduated college, where I played Division I lacrosse, I felt like I had more to give as far as like just athleticism or something. So I went to a CrossFit gym, started doing that, started coaching, and then I fell in love with weightlifting, which is the snatch and the clean and jerk, and we know how that turned out. Today's video is sponsored by Transparent Labs. Now, I think the greatest thing about this minimum amount of ingredients here: grass-fed whey protein isolate, peanut flour, cocoa powder, natural chocolate flavor, sodium chloride, and stevia extract. Super basic. This flavor is chocolate peanut butter. I think it's incredible. I'm just gonna take 1 scoop of the bulk pre-workout here. 200 milligrams caffeine, L-theanine, all the basic stuff. I love this brand. It is Informed Choice approved, meaning that if you compete in anything that's WADA or USADA tested, these are good to go. Click the link in the description and use code ZACH at checkout. I kind of have fallen back in love with CrossFit just for my own personal fitness journey. And I'll be completely clear with you guys. Like, it's hard for me to go to the gym. I don't have any real strength goals or long-term fitness goals. I just want to be able to feel better, like whether that is keeping myself from becoming fat or just like mentally feeling stable. I feel as though CrossFit for me is the most optimal way to do that because I get some intensity and then I can also just like lay off and go through the motions. Like, I've been doing this a long time. Like, I got my level 1 in CrossFit in 2013. So when I go and do a CrossFit workout, I know how to take my intensity. Like, there's no ego at all. And what's cool is I just do that 3 times a week and I cover a lot of ground. But that's neither here nor there. I want to get into this study because, like I said, these things in this study are very translatable, or at least I'll try to translate them to you guys. So here it is. It's a Instagram page that you guys should definitely check out. It's called WOD Science, and it basically goes over, the CrossFit methodology, which isn't necessarily that scientific. Like, there aren't many studies around CrossFit, but it is effective. I'm not saying that's not true. But we see time and time again studies on range of motion in like hypertrophy training and strength training and athletics, but we never really see much around the science of CrossFit. And I found this one really interesting. It's a hybrid approach to CrossFit training. Our new study explained. Can this change the way we program CrossFit in the future? So what we have is what they call the interference effect. So a CrossFitter needs to have equal endurance, mixed, and strength. So, the Venn diagram should be equal. We have endurance and strength, and it should be right down the center. And if we look at something like somebody who's a cyclist, it's a lot of it's endurance, and there's a tiny little chunk of strength. And then we look at the opposite end of that. We have an Olympic weightlifter, and that a lot of that is strength. And then we have a minor amount of endurance in that. The way they look at this is like these styles of training can interfere with each other, like in a macro cycle, in a long term, if you push them too far, right? This is the specific adaptations for imposed demands, the SAID principle, right? This is an old principle that we follow around with periodization. whatever your specific demands of your sport, if you go too far outside of them, it's okay. General physical preparedness is okay, but not if you push the adaptations in that general physical preparedness, because it will limit the amount of specific adaptations you should be making. Okay, that's just like training in a nutshell. And what they're looking for is like, what's the best structure for training for CrossFitters and CrossFit performance? And so this is kind of like what you would see at a typical gym. And I kind of took a peek at the comments section. So a lot of people had issues with this. This is not always what you would see at a typical gym, but we're just going to look at the study. Then we'll look at the comments and the issues that people had later. You have your intro and your warm up for 15 minutes. Then you have your strength and your skill for another 15 to 20 minutes. And then you have your WOD, or your metabolic conditioning. And this is like what you would call concurrent training. You're attacking these different aspects of training within the same session, rather than some sort of a conjugate style training where you would attack certain things within a microcycle, which is a weekly structure. And then your goal is whatever performance it is. If we look at like Louis Simmons, the guy who coined the term conjugate, their goal was to be as strong as possible, but they would have certain days that would work on speed, certain days that would work on hypertrophy or repetitions, and then they would have their important days where they would work on their max effort strength. They separated those out rather than did them all on the same day. So what they're doing in this study is comparing the two, basically concurrent training versus conjugate training, but it's within the microcycle. That is key, okay? They had a test that they put through with 141 subjects, and it was 8 weeks of training. Group A did traditional CrossFit. So they did the 4 times per week of concurrent training, where you have that structure that we talked about before, warm up, strength, and skill, and then the metabolic conditioning. And then group B was hybrid CrossFit, 4 times per week. And a lot of you CrossFit purists already know the issue with this, but we'll get to that later, okay? I understand that we are now labeling what typical CrossFit training is, and a lot of people are going to be go nuts about that. So the way that they did the tests were the CrossFit Total, back squat, shoulder press, and deadlift. Fran, which is like the most famous CrossFit workout, where they do the butterfly pull-ups that everyone hates. Then they do the thrusters, which are an incredibly effective movement, in my opinion. 1 rep max clean and jerk, all-out squat test, which is brutal. As many reps as possible at 100% your body weight, and then a 2K row. Honestly, a pretty good test of fitness. Like those right there, that's a pretty good test of if you're a beast or not. So these were fit individuals. These were not just random people. These were people who were experienced in CrossFit. And what they'd found are the gains in total fitness between the hybrid and the traditional CrossFit. You could see on the bottom right here, after compiling all of these, was that the hybrid style of training was better than the concurrent one, the conjugate one, or the typical training one. What are the applications of this? Train more efficiently by separating training modalities, skill and strength versus conditioning. If total volume is low to moderate, 4 to 5 sessions a week, 1 week skill strength, week 2 conditioning. If total volume is high, right, you have two different training sessions per day. You could do AM skill strength and then PM conditioning. How does this translate to you guys? First off, I think this is actually a pretty big finding because it like really sets the record straight of the issues that I've always had with CrossFit style training, but just like training for that everyone's done. I think the biggest issue that we see in CrossFit, weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding is ego. And it's needing to feed this thing, your ego. You need to feed it every day. You need to check it off every day. And sometimes that's something that people need to do therapeutically. But is it actually effective in performance? And the answer is no. The biggest thing that I would see as a CrossFit coach was people needing to feel like they died after a session. They needed it. If they didn't get it, they would have a lot of issues. And so if you program strength days and then you program a hard conditioning day, what I saw a lot of was people not showing up to the strength day because they're like, well, that just doesn't do it for me. I'll just go for a run and like get my heart rate going up. It's like a value system that they just don't get. They don't get that sense of like, I need this, right? What people started to do was be like, okay, fine. Well, we're going to program strength and conditioning on the same day. So you can cover all your bases in one day. The problem is that's not the effective way to do it. And I want to show you guys an example before we get to the comment section, which, by the way, the reasons why we look at the comment section on these kind of science, on these science things, it's actually pretty interesting because people bring up the issues and then we see what's voted up to the top of like, hey, I'm a CrossFitter. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is why the test that you guys did was wrong. This is why the applications of that test were wrong. I find it to be very interesting. And a lot of you guys, like I said, your concerns will be brought up. But I want to show you guys a video that I made, a training session at a CrossFit gym in a CrossFit class. Now, this is the most important thing about the way that I view CrossFit. CrossFit is not always CrossFit, okay? This training session, I want you to watch it, okay, from front to back. And after it's done, I want you to say, that was CrossFit what he did, okay? Here it is. Oh, yeah. So as you can see, that was the workout from front to back. 3 sets of front squats paired with the gorilla rows, and then 3 sets of push press paired with the kettlebell swing, the double kettlebell swings. That was a great strength workout. If CrossFit takes that, right, then we're giving way too much credit to CrossFit. Okay. But that is what I did. I walked in, warmed up, and with the class, that's what we did. And this is where I think that I can make some sort of assessment of CrossFit. Like, that's amazing. If we can get that to a broad population, that's amazing. I don't see that anywhere else. I don't see a group of 20 people pushing themselves in the front squat, in the rows, in the push press, and then in the kettlebell swing. I don't see them pushing themselves in that way with adequate rest and like a well thought out program. I don't see that en masse in a classroom setting. In the classroom setting with a coach and other people and the music is loud, like, you get a lot out of that training. And that's where I think the value of CrossFit comes in. Okay. So anyways, there's that session. The following day, okay, I was actually pretty sore from that session, not gonna lie. The following day, it was 10 rounds of a 250 meter row and a 200 run. Okay. Again, is that CrossFit? Right? Rowing and running for 10 rounds? Like, again, we'd be giving too much credit to CrossFit, but yet that's really the only place that I know where we're going to have those two things back to back and in an effective way. And guys, that is the hybrid style of training that they are talking about here. It's not just that you can do this by yourself, because you can, and I think you should. I think you should. It's that if you can find a CrossFit gym, or you can eliminate your ego to a certain extent to where you know the goal of the day and the goal stimulus of the day, and you can stay calm and collected and move through this week after week, you're going to become a very fit person. And I've yet to really find that outside of the CrossFit space. Okay. My goals before any of this were to be as strong as fucking possible, so I wouldn't do this training. Okay. My goals now are to just like feel good. And I'm like still pretty strong. You know, a 275 front squat for 5, a 225 push press for 5, and then the following day being able to row well over a 2K and run over 2K all in 24 minutes. Like, I feel pretty fucking good about where I'm at. But anyways, we're going to go to the comment section here because I know there's a lot of issues with this type of study. The main issue here is that people say that this is how CrossFit has been structured all along. It's warm up and then Metcon, or warm up and then strength training, or warm up and then single modality, or like something long. Okay. That is true. That's like literally the essence of CrossFit. The problem is, though, I don't think that they were enough like volume of the two. Again, this comment here is, so you basically discovered that the CrossFit methodology works better when applied and programmed correctly rather than incorrectly. There are a lot more about this than in the CrossFit L1. And that's, again, this is the main issue that people have. Like, that the hybrid style is actually how it is. It's like, not entirely, guys. Not entirely. Because the way that I saw CrossFit was like, you know, there's a video I did a while ago, but it was like the issue with CrossFit. And mine was talking about the programming and specifically programming for strength. I didn't think that the volume was adequate enough. I didn't think that the intentionality behind the strength training was adequate enough. And what I was able to feel with this programming on this week was just that. It was distinctly CrossFit, but at the same time, it was distinctly not CrossFit. And if there's one thing that I can suggest after this video and all of this is like, that is a beautiful way to train. And that is how I believe the average human being, you guys out there, should be training. Unless, of course, you want to get your snatch, clean, and jerk up as big as you can, powerlifting total as big as you can, or you want to run a marathon as fast as you can, right? But what I was able to show you guys was two very different aspects of training and being pretty fucking good at both of them. And feeling really good about that style of training. And however you can implement that, I would challenge you to do so. And, you know, hate, love CrossFit, it doesn't really matter. Just don't give it so much credit to where you think that a workout with front squats and kettlebell swings is inherently CrossFit. It's not. It's not. It's strength and conditioning training, y'all. Anyways, I thought that was a super interesting thing. I hope you like this. Please discuss your takes in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.